Hello and welcome to the Hoop Heads Podcast. It's Mike Linsing here with my co-host
I'm
Jason
here
Sunkel.
saving everyone from a 40-minute monologue tonight.
That's right. 2 weeks we haven't seen Jason's face, but
Well,
he's back.
you're gonna get a 40-minute monologue in 2 weeks when I'm in Disney. So Mike's gonna get to monologue you to death again in 2 weeks. So I figured I'll save you this week and next week, and then I'll let him back at it.
All right. Sounds like a plan. We'll see what we can do. Well, there's been a lot going on in the NBA, and we're going to kind of bounce around to a variety of different teams. Where do you want to start, Jay? What team do you want to start with? What storyline
Let's
do you want to
let's
start with?
let's start with the team that's on the top of everybody's mind, the Atlanta Hawks, Mike. Let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks.
All right. I'm
They're
fine to talk
streaking,
about the
baby.
Atlanta. They are
They're
streaking.
they're on fire. I think, like, honestly, like, okay, so for listeners, I was kind of basically, I wouldn't say I was like bedridden, but I was pretty sick the last 7, 8 days, and I'm better now. I didn't miss any work, but by the time 8 o'clock rolled around, I was like dead to the world. So I really did not watch much NBA. I listened to Cavs games more than I like watched anything. I've listened to some podcasts, but I feel like when we last podcasted, Atlanta was like in the 9th spot, maybe the 8th spot, and now they're all the way up to the 6th spot, and they're not that far off of the 5 spot, right? They're hanging in there. I mean,
They're a half game behind Toronto for 5, and they're a game ahead of the Sixers for 7.
and to be honest with you, I don't even know like what teams they beat. I mean, I know they beat Golden
Well,
State.
here
They're
you
right.
go. Can I read you the teams that they've beat?
Are they terrible teams? That's the question.
Stop me when they beat an impressive team, okay? So we're going back to we'll call their current hot streak starting on Sunday, February 22nd. Stop me when we get to a team that you're impressed that they beat. The Brooklyn Nets, the Washington Wizards, the Washington Wizards, the Washington Wizards. Okay. The Portland Trailblazers without their best player, Denny Avdia. The Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Dallas Mavericks, the Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Orlando Magic.
That's like,
the Dallas Mavericks, a loss to the Houston Rockets by 22, the Golden State Warriors, the Memphis Grizzlies. So you stammered through the Orlando Magic, which meant you had some inkling of maybe saying that the Magic were a decent team. Otherwise, they have basically beaten the tankers,
and Golden State, who's injured, who doesn't have their best player still.
Philadelphia, same situation, not tanking, but certainly they were without Embiid.
Hey, Paul George is coming back, baby.
There you go.
Coming back.
They were without Tyrese Maxey when they played Atlanta.
I'm assuming Embiid didn't play either. I'm assuming, right?
Correct. And they did snap. They were the team that snapped Orlando's 5-game winning streak, I believe, and sent them into the current 5-game skid, which Orlando is currently on. So, look, anytime you win 13 out of 14 games in the NBA, and they won several of those games on the road, although a majority of them were at home, I think that you still have to give Atlanta a little bit of credit.
You're playing the sisters to the poor here, though. Come on, Mike. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, that's a murderer's row of tankers that they've been playing.
I want to meet the NBA scheduler who's scheduled them that schedule for that. Listen, you can only play who's on your schedule, and you can only play them in the order they're on their schedule, right? Like most teams are playing those teams the same number of times that in the Eastern Conference that Hawks are playing them. So you can't fault the Atlanta Hawks. But listen, you play the teams that you can play on the schedule. We've seen the Cavs blow games. I mean, they literally murdered Dallas, and then 3 days later they lose to Dallas. So I think you can only beat the teams play the teams that are on your schedule. They've done what they've taken care of business, quote unquote, right? Like I can't get mad at them because we've played Wizards like 3 times and Brooklyn 3 times, and we've beaten them, right? So great, that's the way I'm going to look at it, right? I think whether that's right or not, they can only play who's on their schedule. I keep saying that, but it just happens that their schedule worked out really nicely for that stretch of time.
We will find out about the Atlanta Hawks theoretically over the next 10 games because 8 of the final 10 are against playoff or play-in teams in the Eastern Conference. So they have Detroit, Boston, Orlando, the Knicks, the Cavs twice, and Miami in their last 10
So what do
games.
they have to go?
So
What do they have to go in those 10 games for you to be impressed, Mike? What do they have to do in those 10 games? If they go 6-4, if they go 7-3,
the other two games are Sacramento and Brooklyn. So you got to believe they're going to win those two games. So that leaves you with 8 games. If they split those 8 games, that would put them 6-4, 6-4 in the last 10. I think that would be a respectable performance. Now, again, we have no idea. There, 3 of the last 4 are against the Knicks and the Cavs, who may be locked into seeds at that point. We don't know. But nonetheless, Atlanta right now clearly is playing the way that you would want to be playing as you're heading towards the playoffs. Whether or not that can continue against this upcoming streak of opponents remains to be seen. But when you can bank 13 wins in 14 games, you're clearly going to make a leap up the standings, especially when you were barely hanging on to 10th ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks at that point. So I think with Atlanta, you look at it and you say, okay, let's just project them to stay where they are in the number 6 spot. They've got the Knicks in the first round. Then I guess the question is, would Atlanta feel threatening to any of the top 4 seeds? Like I've said, I'm deathly afraid of any of these teams below the Cavs. I feel like the Cavs should and probably would beat all of them, but I do not feel like any series I would go into with any of these 5 through 10 teams would I feel 100% confident that this Cavs team, hey, they're just going to take care of business
listen,
and blow these teams out. The way I felt like last year when they played Miami, where it felt like Miami was going to have no chance, and in fact, they didn't have a chance. I feel more like I did going into that Pacers series where I feel like the Cavs probably should win it, but makes me a little bit nervous. And the Hawks, I would definitely throw into that category where I think the Cavs should beat them, but I'd be a little nervous playing the Atlanta Hawks were that to
Mike,
be the case.
Mike, I have a question for you. What's
All
more
right.
impressive, the Atlanta Hawks winning 13 out of 14 games, or the NBA having to step in and cancel their Magic City promotion?
I'm just look, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the Atlanta Hawks organization came to the conclusion that that was a good idea. Look,
Or wait,
regardless
wait,
of
what's more? Okay, I guess the next question is, what's more impressive? There are 13 out of 14 wins, that the NBA having to step into the promotion, or the fact that the NBA let the promotion go as long as it went, like advertised to the point that they were advertising sweatshirts that they were going to sell. And
I
now
guess
those sweatshirts got probably shipped to Africa, and they're probably being worn by people who don't have anything. Which of those things is more impressive, Mike?
it all came down to Luke Cornett. When Luke Cornett said, hey, what are we doing here? That was the end of it. So I'll go with the 13 out of 14 wins for the Atlanta Hawks and put the other stuff to the side. I still just can't believe that the organization as a whole, that there was nobody who stepped in and said, you know, a lot of our fans are probably women and kids, and maybe this isn't the best idea of what we want to associate our franchise with, but who am I to say?
I'll tell you, James Harden.
He would have. Only other thing about Atlanta is Jalen Johnson. I think he's headed for all NBA, especially if we have guys, and we may talk about this at some point. We have a lot of guys that are right on the threshold or going to miss the threshold of 65 games. Specifically, Cade Cunningham is one that looks like his what was a certain probably first team All NBA case. He may not make any of the teams, which seems criminal, but Jalen Johnson, I think, who is averaging, I had his stats pulled up right here. He is averaging a 23, 10, and 8. I think he's going to be third team NBA. And if he gets enough injuries and guys missing games, he could sneak up into the second team, which is crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, props to him. I guess, just talking about the LNBA thing while we decided this is going to be a potpourri episode, by the way, guys. So we're going to jump around quite a bit. But like, I know I heard someone talking about there's a chance that so many people miss, like Donovan's going to have a chance at first team. Like, I don't know if that's true or not anymore, because I've not really been paying too much attention to the numbers of games. And like, is SGA back now? Is he back?
SGA is back. He's been back for a while. He's going to easily make it, I think, without any problem. And Jokic is close. I still think he can only miss a
One
couple
more
games.
game, right? I think he only missed one more game, right? Wasn't that what I read?
I'm looking at it. I'm going to look it up right now while we're talking.
But so like Mitchell could theoretically sneak in. You know,
Shea's played 60 with 10 games left. Let's see where the Joker is at. Joker's played 56 with 10 games left, so he's got to
he can miss
play.
one.
He
He's
can
got to
miss
make
one
him.
more. And I believe, let me see where Wemby's at. Wemby is, I think, close to about the same position Jokic is in, but let me just double check that. Currently, Wemby has played 57 games, so he has 2 games to play with in order to do that. And then the other guy who's probably going to make it, right? I mean, there's a pretty much a consensus at this point that 4 guys, if they qualify for the number of games played, that the 3 guys that we just talked about and Luka are going to be. Luka's played 60, so he's got to play half the game. So he's probably going to make it. So I think those 4, to me, if they've all met the 65 game threshold, to me, those 4 are locks to be all NBA. I talked a little bit last week about the MVP race and where it looked like things were and how it appeared. And I would say it certainly appears that Wemby has past Jokic, and at this point, there's some momentum for Luka passing up the Joker too, despite the fact that Jokic is averaging a 27, 13, and 10, which is just insane that he could finish potentially 4th.
Yeah. Do you remember when Russell Westbrook had to be the MVP because he got a triple double for a season? Do you
I do
remember
remember
that
that. I
season?
do remember that season. I do remember that season. It's amazing how, I guess, the pace of play has increased to the point where I don't know if we have an era here where we just have some statistical inflation compared to what the game was like 10 years ago, or certainly 20 years ago, or 30
Please
years
don't say
ago.
the word inflation in our current country. Okay.
All right. No offense. No offense. But anyway, I think that all 4 of those guys, I'm guessing, are going to get enough games unless one of them gets hurt down the stretch. I would think that if they're healthy, that
Yeah.
they're all going to play in whatever games are remaining for their team, unless they have one to give in the
Yeah.
season and it's the final game of the season and they've already qualified and that game doesn't matter in the standings. Otherwise, I would expect all 4 of those guys to play in the games that are remaining. But it's going to be interesting. I think, barring something crazy, I think SGA wins it. But the fact that all 4 of these guys, statistically, the seasons that they're having are pretty ridiculous. What Luka's done over the last 10 or 12 games, where he's averaging close to 40, and obviously he's leading the league in scoring, and then what he's done with his team and the success that the Lakers have had. And unlike Atlanta, who has not beaten anybody, the Lakers have beat some real teams
Yeah. That was
during the stretch.
be my next jump.
All right,
Well, just go. Might as well just go there, Mike. Go ahead.
sure, go ahead. You want me to take it
You
first? I
go.
mean,
You take it first. You
all right,
take it first.
all right.
Here's what I know is the big question we have to ask is LeBron's kind of been the third fiddle on this Lakers during this resurgence. You know, he got hurt, and then came back, and now we're in a situation where he's kind of come back and he's been the third best player. You know, we've got Reeves and Luca. The question is LeBron going to sit on this team? I shouldn't say sit, but is he going to be on this team and then come playoff time when the moment matter? Is he going to be willing to be the third fiddle, or is he going to revert back to LeBron as number 1A or 1B? I think that's the question, because I think now that this blueprint is out there for them, maybe he realizes this is what he needs to do, but is he willing to do it?
Well, here's what I'll say. It seems like, since he's come back from his injury, where there was so much talk, and I'm sure LeBron heard it, whether he heard it directly or whether he heard it from somebody else who read it or saw it. There was so much talk of how the team was better when LeBron wasn't there. And then he comes back, and since then, he has been an alpha role player, for lack of a better way of saying it. He's had the ball in his hands less. He has had less shot attempts. He had 0 in the game. I don't know if that was against Detroit or Orlando at the half, which I don't remember when the last time would have been that LeBron would have had 0 points at halftime of a game, but he just is doing things that contribute to winning. And obviously, is he capable of doing what he's doing? Sure. I think the question that you and I have had since the day this podcast started back in 2018, where even at that point,
We were
once he
young then, Mike.
we were very young then, but it felt like we've been having this discussion for a long time of when is Father Time going to finally chase down LeBron? And look, he's gaining on him, but what LeBron is capable of doing, especially as the third best guy, if he buys into playing off the ball, not just standing around, but cutting and trying to play defense and rebound and be the guy that after Austin Reeves or Luca punctures the defense and now he can attack and he's going downhill. He still is leading the league in fast break points. There is nobody in the league getting more fast break points than 41-year-old LeBron James. And there were a couple plays. I know you saw the play where he dove on the floor headlong and grabbed the ball. That was against the Nuggets in the game where
Dennis
Austin,
Rodman style.
yeah,
Dennis Rodman.
where Austin Reeves missed the free throw and went to overtime, and Reeves tied it off the missed free throw. And then against one of those games against Houston, he had 6 dunks. He just, if he buys into playing this way, and it certainly seems like he is, and again, it's always easy to buy in when your team's winning. If things start to go the other way, does he then say, hey, I've got to maybe take over a little bit more? I don't know. It's never seemed like he's been a guy to defer, but man, as good as Luka's been,
That I saw a tweet. I don't remember who tweeted it out. So sorry for no credit. They just said, "Oh man, LeBron's really slowing down. He can't get up like he used to, and his head was level with the rim on a fast break dunk." And I'm like, if I even attempted to jump like that at my age of 39, I would be hurting so bad. I would be like, I wouldn't. And once again, I know I'm not in a peak physical condition. I understand that, but I just know like what he what he's doing at his age. Mike, 40-year-old LeBron is better than 41-year-old Michael Jordan. True or false? Oh, come on. Come on, man. Come on, man.
here, I'll look up. I'm gonna look up Jordan's stats. So you keep talking about LeBron. I'm gonna look up Jordan's
I
stats.
just the big thing that I just don't know that he's going to be willing to give up to do what he needs to in the postseason. And I will say it gives me more hope, Mike, that he'll be a member of the Cavs next year about this whole situation. Because if he's going to go off as a third fiddle, he's good. He'll want to do it in Cleveland, I think. He might even be the fourth fiddle in Cleveland, quite frankly, if Harden's still on the team, right? Mitchell, Harden, Mobley, LeBron. I mean, think of that. Listen to that starting lineup. Like, come on, listen to that starting lineup. Mitchell, Harden, Mobley, LeBron, and Jared Allen. Come on now. I'm talking it
He's
into
gonna have to come
existence.
for no. He's gonna have to come for no money. That's the first part, right? Is he's gonna have to come
Well,
for
he's gonna have that
little to
he's gonna have that lucrative final season last ride documentary that he's going to be able to sell to Netflix or whoever for $50 million, and it'll be all right.
so a team and a franchise has to buy into that. So you would think that if
Cavs
a
would be
team or a
willing to do that.
franchise,
Cavs would be willing to
maybe,
do that.
I don't know, maybe they
They
would. Look,
sold Gar- they
here's
sold Gar Mike. They sold Garland for a long-term Garland for a short-term win now situation. It's just like the Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love thing. Like, I know Kevin Love was younger, but I just think that was the move. They're going to try to get LeBron to come back. There's no doubt in my mind. I just don't. Go ahead. Hit me with the Michael Jordan stat lines comparative to LeBron.
so here's Jordan's stat. Here's
Go.
Jordan's stat line. Age 38, played 60 games, shot 41% from the floor, averaged 23 points a game, 5.7 rebounds, 5.2 assists, and then played 34 minutes a game. Oh, actually 34.9, so almost 35 minutes a game. At age 39, he played 82 games, played all 82 games, averaged 37 minutes a game. Probably 37 minutes leads the league today in minutes. This season, I bet 37 minutes per game would probably lead the league. He shot a little.
I'll look that up
All right,
right
he's
now.
probably shot a little bit better from the floor that year. He averaged 6.1 rebounds. Assists went down to 3.8, averaged 20 points per game. Was Jordan the same player at age 38 and 39 that he was when he was with the Bulls? Obviously not. Was he still very, very good at that point? Yes, he was. Comparatively to LeBron, you could probably.
Tyrese Maxey is 38.3 minutes per game. Amen Thompson is 37.2. Kevin Durant is number 3 at 36 and a
And
half.
so Jordan's year 39 season, he would have been third in the league in minutes in today's world. So played a lot of minutes. Look, we can argue back and forth, right, with Jordan's 38 and 39 years versus LeBron's 38, 39, 40, 41.
Who leads the NBA in minutes per game in NBA history?
Minutes per game. It's got to be Wilt.
You want what you know? Guess how many minutes per game he played?
I would bet he averaged 45 minutes a game.
0.8 minutes per game.
Well, Wilt never wanted to foul out. That was one of the criticisms of his career, was that he was sometimes maybe not as aggressive defensively as his coaches or teams needed him to be, because he didn't want to foul out. And I don't believe he ever fouled out of an NBA game, which, just when you think about the fact of his size and whatever, the fact that he never fouled out of a game that's insane. It's another insane record. But yeah, 45, that record is unassailable. It will not be approached anytime soon. And look, like I said, when it comes to LeBron and Jordan, you can compare the two of them as older players. And if you want to say LeBron had the better, whatever, second act or end of their career, I'm not going to argue with you. And I don't want to get into the whole Jordan versus LeBron. Yeah, I don't want to get into the difference between those two guys. But here's the thing. Let me just say this about LeBron. So he set the record for most games played, beat Robert Parrish, who had, I believe, 1,611 games. And LeBron is now at 1,600 and counting. And I just want to put this on the record again. I know I've said it many, many times here, but LeBron's career is probably the most incredible career, not just in the history of the NBA, but probably in the history of sports. When you go back to the fact that he burst onto the scene at age 15 and he was playing with the Cavs out at their old practice facility at the Coliseum when he was in high school. And he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and everybody had him pegged as being the next great guy. And we've seen the next great guy in basketball many times. We've seen the next great guy in every sport. And even if those players end up being good, they don't end up being what LeBron has been, which is, I think at this point, you would have a hard time saying that he's anything worse than the second best player. And obviously there are a ton of people who would argue that he's the best player in the history of the league. But I don't think there's an argument to be made anymore that he's not the second best at the very worst. And then you combine that just with the way that he's handled himself off the court, the way that he's handled himself in the media. Is he perfect? No. And we've kind of gone through and talked about that. But when you think about what he's done from his family background, with everything that surrounded him from such an early age, to be able to do what he's done in his career, just forget about what he's done as a basketball player, but what he's done as a human being, it's nothing short of remarkable. And so, as much as, again, I love Michael Jordan, I'll still always believe that Jordan is the best player in the history of the league. That doesn't mean that I don't respect what LeBron has done. He's had an incredible, incredible career. And if he could somehow pull off this final act with the Lakers, even if I don't think they're going to win the title, but even if they win a couple of rounds, or he does end up coming to Cleveland at some point at the end here and can somehow fit in and is willing to take up a secondary role. Look, he's so smart. He's such a good passer, and he can be so
Could you imagine him and Harden on the same team? Like, I mean, my God, Mobley and Mitchell would have a field day. I like, I keep on keep putting it in the ether, hoping that
Well,
it happens. Just
here's the
put it there.
last thing on this, and then let's move on because we spent a lot of time on the Lakers, and we haven't really talked about Luka, who's been the driving force behind this whole thing. But I think the thing with LeBron that you have to wonder is a lot of people thought, well, he's going to leave LA because it's clearly become Luka's team. Well, if LeBron's going to 100% buy into the fact that it's Luka's team, the Lakers are going to be able to pay him more than anybody else can pay him. He obviously wants to live in LA long term, unless he really has some reason for wanting to go and play back for the Cavs to finish up his career, or he really wants to play with Steph Curry in Golden State. Feels like maybe there's a bigger chance that he ends up back with the Lakers than there was 3 weeks ago when he was sitting out injured and people were saying the team was better off without him. I still don't know what he's going to do. I'm sure he doesn't even know. It will be very interesting to see where LeBron ends up playing next year.
Yeah, I'm looking. That's for sure. All right. So I guess the next jump in our journey, we're gonna go back to the East and
Okay.
like the Detroit Pistons. You know, you hinted at the Cade Cunningham situation. Obviously, Cade is out indefinitely, probably out the rest of the regular season because of a collapsed lung. Now, explain to me, Mike, because I missed this in my sickness. How did he get a collapsed lung?
There was a collision that occurred, and I don't know if he immediately, if they knew it was a collapsed lung right away, or if they just felt like he got hit, but it was a collision. And after that, then he came out of the game. And then after post game is when he was diagnosed with collapsed lung.
Good to know, Mike, because I didn't know. I mean, the big thing is who knows? A collapsed lung is kind of serious, right? It's pretty serious, and whether and what when he comes back, you know what kind of shape is he going to be in? Because he's not. If you have a collapsed lung, I don't think you can do any cardio, right? I mean, it's not like he's out there running. He's, can't breathe very well with a collapsed lung. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays and how he handles it and so on and so forth. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how does Detroit deal with him being, I don't want to say the word limited, but kind of limited, right?
Well, yes, I think for the most part, everything that I've read has said that he is going to be out for the remainder of the regular season and be back for the playoffs, which if you're Detroit, I guess that's good and bad news, right? Good that he's not going to miss any playoff games, hopefully. Bad in that they have to hold off the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks for the number 1 seed. Now, they have, since Cade has gone down with injury, they've beaten the Wizards, they've beaten Golden State, and they've beaten the Lakers. Actually, I take that back because he got hurt. This is another, he got hurt against the Wizards. So that was on, I believe, they played him back to back on the 17th and the 19th. I can't remember. I feel like he got hurt in the first Wizards game on the 17th. And then the game that he missed, the first game he missed was the Wizards game. Then they beat Golden State. And then they had a nice home win against the Lakers. So there was clearly some concern for Detroit, obviously just Cade being out and injured and hoping that he's going to be able to come back in time for the playoffs. But also, one of the things that everybody's been saying is how does Detroit generate any kind of offense with Cade Cunningham not in the lineup? And obviously, you're playing the Wizards and you're playing Golden State without Steph and with the injuries that they have. It's one thing, but then they beat the Lakers, who had come in there and had won 9 in a row, and they were able to knock off the Lakers. So I think if you're Detroit, what you have to do is you have to hope that this is a blessing in disguise, that these last 10 games allow you to play with lineups and rotations that maybe you're going to need in the playoffs during the 4 minutes or 6 minutes or 8 minutes that Cade sits out. Can you find some lineups that can generate enough offense to be able to carry the load in the playoffs when Cade has to sit? And so if I'm Detroit, that's the way I'm looking at it. we'll see. Dennis Jenkins had 30 against the Lakers. We saw him play very well against the Cavs in the game that the Cavs blew on the foul at 90 feet from the basket by Jalen Tyson. And Jenkins was good in that game. So maybe he becomes the guy that is sort of spearheading the Pistons offense, which, look, I think if you're one of the other three best teams in the East, you can't be that afraid of Dennis Jenkins beating you. If I'm Detroit, I feel like I'm going to use these last 10 games, if I'm JB Bickerstaff, to figure out, hey, what are some lineups? What are some combinations that when Cade's off the floor, we can work on? And because Cade's not there, you now have 48 minutes a game to figure that out. Plus, they have a 5-game lead right now currently over Boston and the Knicks. And so that gives you a decent amount of leeway where unless Detroit were to go 1-9 or 2-8 in their last 10, I can't imagine that they're going to lose that number 1 seed. So I guess if I'm a Detroit fan, I'm looking at the silver lining of, hey, maybe we can find something that'll work without Cade so that when we in the playoffs, when he sits, maybe we can throw some lineups out there that can at least allow us to tread water until Cade can get back into the lineup. If that makes
Yeah.
sense, that's the way I would look at it if I was the Pistons.
Yeah. 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 I think it makes sense. Mike, you got an all-time bad beat on betting tonight. You ready
I'm
for
ready.
this one? Cavs up 6 with 3.5 seconds left. Banchero hits a 3 with 1.1 seconds left. So the spread was 4.5.
Okay.
Okay. The Cavs inbound the ball, and instead of just letting it go, the Magic fouled Donovan Mitchell with 0.7 seconds left. He drilled both free throws. Cavs win by 5, covering the 4.5.
There you go.
That's a good bad beat. And then one that took Orlando tonight in the 4.5 point spread. Oh boy, you had it. You had it. Donovan Mitchell tonight, Mike, 42 points. 11 of 11 from the line.
Well, can I quickly
him and Harden, man.
Well, here's the thing. Can I quickly let's piggyback off Detroit. And I talked a little bit about this last week, so I'm not going to rant about it, but I want to hear your take. I think really, in all honesty, when you look at the standings as they currently sit, I think the Cavs, and like I've said, I'm scared of these other teams that we're going to play who are below us in the standings. I'm not going to feel super confident, but if the Cavs end up in the 4 spot, I just think
that's prime position. Prime position.
It's ideal. It's ideal because you're going to get whatever. You're going to play somebody in the first round, no matter whether you're the 2, 3, or the 4. You're going to play one of those teams that I'm scared of no matter what. And in all honesty, I would much.
Toronto's the team we want to probably play, right?
I would think so. I would think you'd want to play Toronto. I don't know that honestly, I don't know that I'm any more scared of any one of those teams than the other, but all of them are going to put a little bit of scare into me. But then it's the second round where if I can avoid seeing Boston and New York and those two teams have to play each other in the 2-3 and the Cavs get Detroit. And look, Detroit could very easily beat the Cavs. Detroit is a physically imposing.
I'm not afraid. I am not afraid of Detroit, Mike.
See, I think
I'm on the JB Bickerstaff as the coach.
Look, that's true. It's totally true.
We've seen him play, and we've seen him have successful regular seasons and then completely crap the bed in the playoffs in the second round. I just have flashbacks, or not even in the second round in the play-in game. Give me a break.
I don't disagree with your JB Bickerstaff take, and I do think that could Detroit beat the Cavs? Yes, they could. Would I feel better about the Cavs' chances against Detroit than I would against Boston or New York? Yes, I would. And so I just think that, and this is what I said last week, that I feel like the path to the Eastern Conference Finals and then the path to the NBA Finals, if the Cavs settle into this 4 spot, which is kind of where they're nestled in right now, I guess there's still a chance that they could go either direction if they collapse or if they go on a huge win streak, that maybe they could climb up ahead of the Celtics and or Knicks, or they could fall behind one of these teams that's rising out of the 5 or 6 spot. But I think they're pretty locked into number 4. And to me, I think that's a pretty good place to be. It'll be interesting to see if there are any shenanigans. The Cavs have been known to have some shenanigans to get the matchup that they want in the last 3, 4, 5 games of the season. So it remains to be seen, but I think they're in the best spot right now.
Yep, for sure. I feel pretty good. Once again, that's normally when you should start to worry, is when you feel pretty good.
Absolutely.
All right. So then I guess my next team to talk about is in the Western Conference,
Okay.
Mike. San Antonio. Like we've talked about Wemby. Here's the question that is on your mind is my do the San Antonio Spurs have a legitimate shot to win the West? Do you think what on a scale like if you had to put on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely is San Antonio the team that comes out of the West?
I mean, I still think that in a 7-game series, I still think I would probably pick I for sure would pick Oklahoma City, and I feel pretty confident that if Denver was healthy, I would pick Denver.
Well, that's a big if,
Correct,
though. I mean,
correct.
Denver basically is the Philadelphia 76ers of the
No,
West right now.
I could not agree more. I think that if Denver is not healthy, then I would pick San Antonio, and healthy means they gotta have everybody. They gotta have Aaron Gordon, they gotta have Christian Brown healthy, they gotta have Peyton Watson healthy, they gotta have that whole roster playing at full capacity, and if they don't, I think San Antonio is for real. And you look at the Spurs, they're 54 and 18. Like that's not like nothing. I mean, that's legit.
Yeah.
They're second in the NBA. And I talked about this last week in terms of the Wemby MVP case. And obviously a lot of people have been talking about and writing about the fact that Wemby's MVP case offensively, his numbers probably are not as impressive as the other 3 top MVP candidates, but it totally discounts the way that he changes the game at the other end of the floor. There's just nothing like what he does. You watch him and he's protecting the lane, and yet he's like one step away from blocking somebody's three-pointer, or he's out on the perimeter and he's one step away from just swooping in and just taking a shot away from a guy in the paint. Or there's guys who dribble in and they see Wemby, and normally they'd take like a little 10-foot floater or they'd shoot a little 12-foot midi, and they just turn around and either throw it back out or dribble back out. They're like, we're just not going to challenge
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's honestly, he warps the court defensively in a way that we haven't seen. And he had the game winner, whatever, a couple nights ago, pull up jump shot that looked as smooth as anything. Again, from a guy who's 7'5" or 7'6" or 7'7", whatever he is. Did you see the highlight that he had in their last game? I forget who they were playing now. Let me see.
The only highlight I remember seeing from him was that like alley-oop reverse dunk that he had in transition. That's what I remember seeing him do that. But I don't know when that was.
So,
I'm gonna hate.
so I don't know if that was. I don't know if
we
that
could
was
go.
off the. I think it was against. I feel like that was against Miami. What's tonight? Tuesday. Yeah, it must have been. I feel like it was yesterday against Miami. Maybe it might have been Saturday against the Pacers, but I feel like it was against Miami. But he had this ridiculous block at the one end, and then he out sprinted like 4 guys down the floor, just running down the center of the lane. He caught the ball in the lane off like a bad pass with one hand, was falling out of bounds and fired it to the corner, stepped back inbounds, and then caught an alley-oop from that guy who he passed to in the corner and caught the alley-oop with one hand and dunked it. Just like so many of his plays look like a little kid playing on a Nerf basket. That's just the way he appears. And yet he moves. Any guy who's ever been his size has either been so heavy, like I think of Yao Ming, who just was always plodding around, or you think of like the Sean Bradley, Manute Bol type guys that just can barely run and don't look coordinated and look super stiff. Wemby
Yeah.
moves like a guy who is 6'5" or 6'6", not a guy who's 7'5" or 7'6". And he just does things that nobody else in the game is capable of. And so I think like he's ready for it. Like this dude is ready to compete in the playoffs. I will be stunned, absolutely stunned, if he is not as good or better in the postseason than he has been in the regular season. I honestly will. I think he's averaging less than 30 minutes a game, so it'll be interesting to see when they get to the playoffs
Well, how many
how
minutes he
many
can play?
minutes he ends up playing. That will be, I think, something that I'll definitely be watching. But they're young, but man, I just think like I've always liked De'Aaron Fox. Anybody who listens to the podcast knows I've always felt like he's been underrated and clear.
Man, what'd you think? What did you think of? Was that Waz or was that Joe House on the Bill Simmons overvalued worst contracts in the NBA? Duran Fox was there. It wasn't Simmons. I know it wasn't Simmons
Yeah,
who
I
said
can't
that.
remember which one of them brought up Fox. I feel like it might have been,
I when that happened, when I heard that, I thought, oh man,
yeah.
Mike's head turned bright red
I mean,
when
don't
he
get me
listens
wrong,
to
they're paying
this.
De'Aaron Fox a lot of money, but they also have two guys, Castle's in his second year, Dylan Harper's in his first year, where they've got those guys for 3 or 4 more years on rookie contracts. So by
Yeah,
the time those guys are ready to extend for the first time for a max contract, De'Aaron Fox is probably going to have a year left. And at that point, you're going to decide, hey, this guy's either helped us win 2 or 3 titles or been knocking on the door, or man, we never really reached the potential that we thought we had. And at that point, you could just let him walk away if he's not the same player. But I love where he is right now. Castle is such a good compliment to him, and he's just ferocious defensively and going to the rim. He's so strong, and Harper just continues to get better and better and better. Vassell has had a tremendous year shooting the ball, and he stepped up into, I think, over here the last third of the season. He's really started to come on a little bit and show a little bit more off the dribble creativity and kind of be another guy that looks like he might be ready for the playoffs. Like this team is super young, they're super inexperienced, but I just think that guys like Wembanyama, the mentality, the talent, the uniqueness of his size and skill set, he's a generational talent, and those generational talents usually move quicker than you think in terms of getting their team to the top. And look, they're going to finish with the second best record probably in the league. If you got the second best record in the league, and their record's even better when Wemby plays, I think they're like 53-13 or something. I think they're 5-5 or so when he was out of the lineup. San Antonio's for real. The Western Conference, I think the first round matchups should be interesting.
bloodbath,
Well, the
bloodbath.
3-6, the 3-6 and the 4-5. Well, they're all going to be bloodbaths because the 1 versus the 7, or the 1 versus the 8, and the 2 versus the 7, those two series are going to be destructions, would be my guess. Maybe Phoenix can give San Antonio a little bit of push, but I kind of doubt it. I think that's going to be a destruction. But I think that whoever between the Lakers, Denver, Houston, and Minnesota, whatever matchups out of those 4 teams, those series are going to be those without question.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I guess the last thing that I feel like is topical to me, and maybe you have something else, but the Giannis dispute. Like, here's what I'm gonna say. We went like 2 or 3 months ago with the whole social media wipe. Is there any chance that Giannis is a Milwaukee Buck at the start of next season? Like, I'm leaning towards this is all just gonna be ugly in the offseason at this point. I guess that's my biggest thing. Here's why. There's been all this discussion about whether he wanted to be still in Milwaukee or not. Then he ended up staying in Milwaukee after he maybe talked about possibly getting traded and then not, and then being in on that, and then hemming and hawing and hemming and hawing and hemming and hawing. And here we are. We've had his name was on the trading block. He wants to come back and play. They don't want him to come back and play, clearly because they're tanking at this point. Okay. He doesn't want, he wants to come back and play. He wants to play. They're not agreeing. Then all of a sudden, all these rumors about, oh, the Cavs off. The Bucks came after Mobley, and then I don't remember what the other one was. It was that one, and there was someone else. What was the other trade that was rumored to be a part of that? It was not the Cavs, but another team for Giannis. I can't remember what it was. But anyways, there were two teams that were involved, and they literally spelled out exactly what was offered. I'm just telling you, I think we always do that. What team are they going to be on? Trades, or after the season's over, predicts what team they're going to be on. I think there's a zero chance that Giannis is a Milwaukee Buck when this 2026-2027 season starts. I'm at, I guess I won't say zero. I think I'm going to go like 5% chance.
Well, the dispute this season gets to the heart of what the NBA has to figure out, right, in terms of tanking, because if Giannis is healthy and ready to play, he should want to play, and the Milwaukee Bucks should want him to play. And when the incentives are that the player wants to play and the team is better off having their best player not play, that's a problem for the league. It's a problem for the fans of the league. It's a problem for the competitiveness of the league. And hopefully the NBA is going to at least do something this offseason to try to fix that, to incentivize winning or at least de-incentivize losing to try to get a better draft pick. So that's kind of a separate issue. As to whether or not Giannis is going to be on the Bucks, this whole saga has been so strange from the standpoint of Giannis has done all these passive aggressive LeBron type things behind the scenes, but hasn't come out publicly and declared, I want to be traded or I want to go to a different team. And I don't know if he will or he won't. I'm not sure why he won't. Maybe he doesn't really want to do that. Maybe he'd like to finish his career in Milwaukee. Maybe he sees some pathway for the Bucks to be able to get back to respectability. Maybe he feels like if he's healthy, that the Bucks could have been more of a serious contender in the East this year. I have no idea what his thought process is, but looking at Milwaukee's roster, looking at the Dame Lillard contract stretch, the Miles Turner signing, the rest of the makeup of the Bucks roster, it's hard to see how this team could possibly go from where they are now to being a true contender in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
It just, I just don't see it. And so then the question becomes, does Giannis want to play through mediocrity for the Bucks, or does he want to go somewhere else and try to win? And I believe it was on, I can't remember if it was Windhurst or if it was Simmons that talked about the fact that a Milwaukee Bucks executive came out and said that either Giannis is going to sign the extension this summer or we're going to trade him. And they put that on record. And so at some point, when Giannis gets offered the extension, he may not come out and say the words, I'm demanding a trade. But if he declines to sign the contract,
That means he's
that
demanding a
means he's
trade.
essentially demanding a trade. And then Simmons got into this a little bit, and this is what you and I talked about back at the trade deadline, is how confident, and look, I love Giannis. He's one of my favorite players in the league to watch. I think that from a standpoint of attitude and determination and will to win and all those things, Giannis ranks super high on all that stuff. But at a certain point now, he's 31 years old. He had, what, 4 different injuries, I think, this year. How much do I want to give up of what I have in order to get Giannis and then pay him 4 years, $280 million or whatever his salary is going to be over the course of that extension? I think it's somewhere in that range. Like, I'd be really nervous to give up everything that I had in terms of assets in order to get Giannis, unless I thought I'm that close to a title. And I don't know which teams are that close to a title that have all that stuff to give up where Giannis pushes him over the top. And like I said, he really hasn't had a healthy season since the year they won the title, which is 2022, which now that's 4 years ago. He's had some unfortunate timing and been injured in the playoffs a couple times, but at some point you have to ask yourself, can he stay healthy? I'd be worried about giving up a bunch of stuff for Giannis at this point. I would be nervous. Let's put it that way. If the Cavs were to look in a vacuum, if you give me the next 4 years of Giannis or you give me the next 4 years of Mobley and they're both going to be healthy, I think I'd probably take the next 4 years of Giannis But given that there's no guarantees of either guy being healthy, I like the idea of 23 to 27-year-old Evan Mobley better than I like the idea of 31 to 35 or 36-year-old Giannis Antetokounmpo. So that's the question, I think.
Especially if his brother has to come with him.
Correct. Look, I think you're right that the odds of him being a Buck are pretty low, but I'm not sure where he goes.
Okay, what if you could trade Mobley for Giannis, and then LeBron comes, and then you got Giannis, LeBron, Mitchell, Harden, and some rando?
Well, that's a lot of personality on one team. Let's just put it that way. It would be an interesting chemistry experiment to watch whether or not that would happen. It would be a very interesting chemistry experiment. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Mike, that you want to talk
Can I
about?
hit two things real quick? I don't want to talk for very long, but Minnesota without Anthony Edwards, it'll be interesting to see him.
Why is Anthony Edwards hurt, Mike?
Anthony Edwards is hurt.
No, that's information.
Come on, man. You got to pay some of you.
I told
you got to pay some attention to what's happening.
Listen, Mike, I literally came home.
Okay.
I did last week was my spring break at my Kansas State, so I didn't have any schoolwork to do. I came home, I spent time with the kids, except for Tuesday night. I went to bed right away, but I spent time with the kids and then I went to bed. I did not stay up hardly any of those nights.
All right. Well, you could read a website or two. But anyway, Anthony Edwards out. He hurt his knee. He's been out a couple games. He's still.
Well, that Moses Moody injury, Mike. That made me. Did you see the video of Moses Moody injury?
No, I saw some highlights that he got hurt, but I did not see what happened to him.
Oh, his patellar tendon completely like snapped, and like you could see his knee, like it was gross. You could see like he was looked like his knee had like indented.
Yeah, that's not good. So anyway, Anthony
Right.
Edwards is out. It'll be interesting to see if Minnesota can stay afloat. Obviously, I think at this point,
what's his timeline on that? What's the
timeline? According to ESPN, says Anthony Edwards status out. This is as of March 24th. So this is as of today. It says Edwards is still limited to individual work. So he's at least doing stuff. He's not playing 5-on-5, but he's probably originally I thought he was going to maybe miss most of the regular season, but it sounds like from that he might be closer to coming back than maybe I originally thought. So Minnesota, clearly, I think right now, Houston is 3.5 games ahead of Phoenix, and the Timberwolves are 4 games ahead of the Suns. So I think they should be able to, with only 10 games, they should be able to stay. Both of those teams obviously want to stay out of the play-in, which I think they'll be able to. And then the only other thing I wanted to touch on quickly is that the Rockets, who have been up and down, they're 5-5 in their last 10, not playing particularly well, but they finally made the move of putting Reed Shepherd into the starting lineup to give them an actual functional point guard on their team, because they've just broken down at the end of games, and basically their end of game offense has just been either give the ball to Şengün or give the ball to Durant and let them try to create. And it hasn't really worked that well. Kind of reminiscent of the JB Bickerstaff clogged toilet offense that we saw when JB was here, or hearkening way back to the Mike Brown era of Cavs basketball. But so I think it's interesting that they put Reed Shepherd into the lineup finally. And you and I haven't talked much about Reed Shepherd since opening night, where he was a turnstile on defense, but he has done a little bit more defensively. He's always going to be picked on because he's never going to be a good defensive player just because of his size and physical limitations. But he is a guy that offensively, he definitely is capable of doing some good things for Houston's offense. He's shooting 39% from 3 on the year, and he's a good passer. And it'll be interesting to see how he does for the remainder of the regular season. Then it'll be interesting to watch Houston in a playoff series to see how teams attack Reed Shepherd, because obviously the rest of Houston's lineup is huge and long. And I don't know if you'd call Şengün athletic, but certainly with Durant and Jabari Smith and Amen Thompson and Tari Eason, you have a lot of big, long, physical, athletic guys that you should be able to figure out a way to hide Reed Shepherd at least a little bit so that teams can't completely attack him. But I thought that was just an interesting twist that they took Tari Eason out of the starting lineup and put Reed Shepherd in there and sort of turned over the reins to the starting lineup to Shepard instead of having it always in Amen Thompson's hands, who's been good in that spot. But still, it's nice to have a competent, quote unquote, real guard. I'll be kind of watching that for Houston down the stretch to see how that experiment goes, and then heading into the first round of the playoffs with whatever matchup they end up getting. So that was the last thing I wanted to hit on. So I don't have anything else.
Okay, Mike, I want you to just pull Twitter up. I sent you the video of Moses Moody injury.
Okay.
Someone says not for the squeamish. I don't feel like it's super, but you can see his knee. You
All
can
right.
see his
Okay,
knee.
I'm gonna look at it right now. Give me a second to check it out here.
Fire up the Twitter. Hopefully your internet doesn't go out with you doing that.
I'm doing it on the phone. So let me see here. Are they gonna show a close up of it? Oh,
Look, I told you, it looks like it's like
yeah.
it looks like someone like Mike Tyson punched his knee out.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, that's not good looking. That doesn't make me squeamish. In all honesty, I don't love the bones going the opposite direction. That didn't bother me quite as much. But yeah, that is not a pretty injury. I have no idea what the recovery is. What that?
Well, they said the doc. The Twitter. There's always the Twitter, like the people that tweet out.
Right.
No, like the legitimate sports therapy guys that say
right.
He said the one sports therapy guy that I said saw he's out probably the rest of this calendar year, and if his healing goes well, he could probably come back in February.
Okay.
But that would be the earliest he would be back. Would be next February. So it seems like it's an 11-month injury.
So he'll be back in July, is what you're saying?
Well, next July, like 2027.
No, I'm
July?
just saying with the way guys recover now from injuries, who knows? The timelines are probably sped up completely.
Hey, Mike, when did Devin Booker come back? I know he was injured. Did he come back recently?
Devin Booker's been back for, I would say, about 10 days, if I had to guess. I feel like he's been back.
Yeah. Well, that's probably when I started to get sick, and it rolled into that. Okay, got it. But I saw he's playing tonight. We'll see. I'll watch a little bit of this game tonight and see how Denver looks against Phoenix.
Denver's been very shaky. Denver has been quite shaky. They just look.
Would they be at the shaky game?
They might be at the shaky game. It's been rough. Let's put it that way. It's been rough that they're. I don't know. They just haven't looked. They haven't looked right. They have not looked right. So anyway,
Mike, one last question, non-basketball related. Have you been watching Survivor 50?
I have not. Sorry, I have not.
Disappointed.
Kids want me to watch it, so Cal and Meredith are kind of watching it together and talking it back and forth. But I have not watched it.
So disappointed, Mike. That is the one thing that I did watch last week. I said nothing is going to stop me from watching Survivor 50. I did watch Survivor 50.
All right. Well, who knows? There's still a chance. Maybe I'll force myself.
You're retired. You got all the time in the world. Your internet doesn't work, so you can't record episodes.
Well, I can't watch TV if the internet's broken now because I don't. You
can watch it on the phone.
Man, whatever. It's give me back the days of cable. I'd much rather go back to cable. All this streaming I could do with.
All right. On that note, let's end it there, Mike. Let's end it there.
Let's not show our cranky old man side. All right. Thank you everyone for checking out tonight's NBA episode.
Speak for yourself.
There you go. And we will catch you next week for NBA episode. And make sure you check out the regularly scheduled interviews coming up on Thursday and Sunday. Thanks.
I'm getting the reconnecting thing symbol on you right now.
Oh, really?
Right at the end. That's what I don't know if you saw. Were you looking at me or not? I was like,
no,
wrap it up, Mike.
I looked at you. I saw you.
Oh, there you go. You're back. Okay, you're connected. I got a good one for you. Right? That's what I got a good one for you. Got a good one for you. I wanted to make sure that everyone was asleep before
I understand
because she was
completely
down.
Understand.
So the next door neighbor's out of town, and he asked us to watch his dog. Perfectly fine. His dog barks a lot, but it's an easy job. It's extra money for Will. That was the premise.
Yeah, okay.
He paid us. We're taking him out 3 to 4 times a day and feeding him twice a day. He gave us $300 for 9 days. I mean, that's easy. Whatever. It's literally 15 minutes of our day.
Seems reasonable.
Seems, and he was paying Will this, and we said, Will, you're not taking $300 because you're not even home during the day right now. So Will made $100 on it. And then we gave the rest we split $100 for the kids, and the other $100 are going towards Disney.
There you go.
Anyways, so like last weekend, like I said, Abby kept wanting to come over to let the dog out. Okay. The dog is not used to little kids, not okay. But oh, she can go over. She can go over. I'm like, okay, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. And he once again, he doesn't bite or anything, but he's
Yeah,
rambunctious.
right.
He's a
Yeah,
rambunctious
right.
and not used to little kids.
Right.
So, like 2 days ago, I took her over and, like, he almost knocked her over, and I said, "Molly, she should not come over. He's just not used to little kids. He wants." "She's fine, she's fine." Today, she took her over with him. He, like, ran her over, knocked her over. She's got a huge mark right here because he knocked her over and jumped on her. If I would have fucking done that, I would have been fucking dead.
You didn't say "I told you so."
I may have.
Good
I
for
may have.
you. Good for you.
I may
Good
have
for you.
said I may have
Good
said
for you.
I may have said I have to say I don't think my wife is ever speechless, and she normally puts up a fight. I may have said to her, I may have said, "I just wanna point out that if this would have happened on my watch, I would have been crucified." And I said this in front of Will, and Will laughed.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's
She did not say a word back to me
alright, well,
about
that's
it.
good, good. Points for you, man. Points for you. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. Yeah, it's, I don't know, there's always
Aaron Gordon's playing. They didn't when did he come back?
he's been back for a while too. Well, he's been in and out, like, he's been sitting out. He
Injury
Yeah, he's
management?
been sitting out he's been sitting out off and on. He's been sitting out games off and on, so
Yeah, so you can't watch this game because you don't have Peacock. Because so the late game's only on Peacock for
yeah,
us.
I do not have P.
See that I really do like that they did this though, because these I do like I don't really love the 8 o'clock start
Yeah, I don't
times,
like it.
but the fact that they're putting 2 games on, and if you
An
have
11 o'clock start is nice. I mean, from a standpoint of, like, if you do wanna stay up and watch a game, like, that's a good time to have a game on.
and it's not and like having the games on NBC and then having the first game on, and obviously if you're on the West Coast, you would have this game on at 8
Right,
o'clock,
yeah, yeah.
on NBC, and you would have to have Peacock to watch the East Coast. It's kind of cool. I, you know, it is kind of my head's spinning trying to keep track. Baseball starts this week. You know this, right?
Well, I guess it makes sense.
The Guardians start on Thursday night, and trying to keep track of like tomorrow night is opening night for some teams, and like Netflix has some games, Prime has games, Apple TV has games, NBC and Peacock
Let me
have
ask you
games.
this. Can I ask you this?
Like this is like
Can I
I'm
ask
like
you this though? Would you at this point in your life, would you ever tune into a non-Indians baseball game just on, like, a random, like, would you be like would you be like
if I get an alert in the 7th or 8th inning that some guy has a no hitter,
right,
or
but I
if I
mean,
get
you
an
wouldn't be
alert,
like, "Oh, man, it's it's Yankees Orioles tonight, man. Those 2 teams are battling it out for first
no,
place."
no, once in a while, like I'll probably tune into the tomorrow night a little bit just because it's opening night and it's just
Yeah,
the pageantry of the opening night.
yeah,
And I would tune into, I watch more Red Sox games than I would like to admit, but that's primarily because of not necessarily Molly, but Molly's mom. And if we're like with her and it's on the TV, we'll watch
yeah,
it,
yeah.
or if I can get it on. But I, I would not say, or if I know Otani's pitching or doing stuff, then maybe I would watch him. But am I like on a random Wednesday being like, Brewers are playing the Pirates, I want to watch that game? No. Unfortunately, I am still in a fantasy baseball league though, so I gotta friggin' pay attention to that.
Yeah, I can't.
2 years ago, I won my fantasy baseball league, and I didn't. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how that
Somebody
happened. And then last year, I put up a good
somebody
fight.
has to win, man.
It's a 16-team league, and no, these people pay attention.
I wouldn't even
I just had
like, I seriously, I mean, I know we've done this exercise before, but
okay. Well, here
there's
I'm gonna
20 major league teams at least. I couldn't name one player who plays on them.
let me tell you the guys on my team.
Okay, you read their names, I'll tell you what team they're on.
Salvador Perez.
Padres.
Should get that.
Padres.
No, you should get that guy. He plays for Kansas City. He's played for Kansas City his whole
Never heard
career.
of him.
Ben Rice,
Brewers.
that's a Yankee. Brandon Lowe.
Brandon Lowe, the low post. He plays for the Mets.
No, he plays for the Pirates. Matt Chapman.
Chapman, the Chargers. So San Diego.
That is
All
correct.
right, look at that.
Francisco Lindor.
Does he play for the Mets?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Ronald Acuna Jr.
Astros.
Oh, Braves. Riley Green.
Riley Green. Oh, what team is Green? The A's. He plays for
No, Detroit.
Las Vegas A's.
Carlos Stanton.
That's the Yankees. That's the Yankees.
Yeah, it's Yankees. Okay. These you definitely know this. Jimenez. You know what team Jimenez is on? We traded him
Who's
last week.
Jimenez? Who?
Andres
Andres
Jimenez. He
Jimenez.
was our second
The
baseman.
Cubs?
No, Toronto. Kyle Manzardo.
Manzardo.
There you go. Guardians. Okay, so that's those are the names that maybe you would have a chance. Okay. Let's see if you know any of these pitchers. No, there's no way. Justin Verlander. I have him on my
Justin
team.
Verlander, the Tigers.
He went back to the Tigers. You're right, Mike. Good
Perfect.
job.
See, there you go.
That's the only one that I think you would have any chance of knowing, and no one else.
I would have no idea. I would have no clue. I would have none.
All right. Well,
There,
that was a fun
there
exercise.
we go.
All right, I'm gonna go to bed.
All right, I'm gonna try to bang that.
I'm pushing myself to my limit today.
Good work. Well, you gave it to Madeline because Madeline has been sick for like 2 weeks.
I haven't seen Madeline.
Madeline went to AAU and played on Saturday, like off her deathbed, played in 2 games, and then came home and like I wiped her out. So Sunday she couldn't play Sunday. She was completely incapacitated and then didn't go to school yesterday. And we went to practice today, but she didn't practice because she still is like just her face was swollen and she had this can't breathe, her tonsils are inflamed. And so hopefully Thursday she'll be back to practice.
Hey, I saw Sid's playing football.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe flag football.
Yeah, Strong's flag football team is what's his name? Sapara's coaching.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
What a clown!
It is what it is, man. Hey, I'm sure he's dedicated, man. I'm sure he's putting a lot of time in on the practice field with the young ladies.
Well, they're 2-0, baby. They're 2-0.
That's all you can ask.
I saw her.
All right. Good for Sid.
She's quarterbacking.
That's surprising.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. I'll talk to you
later.